Hello, and welcome to the East Africa Business Podcast. I'm Sam Floy, and I'm here on the continent to learn about the emerging business scene. I'll be interviewing startups, investors, and organisations who are all playing their part in helping the region develop and grow. And in doing this podcast, I'll be sharing with you the things I learned along the way. When most people think of East Africa, they visualise safari. The region is home to many large and exotic animals that parade through the national parks. Mejah runs Afriroots, a tour company which focuses on experiences that are off the beaten track. In this episode, we discuss the different customer types they have, how he started his company with $200, and what to do if you ever become confronted by a lion. We're also next to where an aerobics class was taking place, so if you hear some throbbing beats in the background, it's just that. Either way, it's a really interesting discussion we have about the tourism market in Tanzania, and so I hope you enjoy. Cool. So I'm here today with Mejah from Afriroots. Mejah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much.
So just to get us started, could you tell us a bit about you and a bit about Afriroots?
Yes. My name is Mejah, and I have been running Afriroots for the last 13 years. I'm the co-director, so we're two of us who founded Afriroots in 2003. But apart from that, I've been involved with a lot of urban matters, including promotion of the use of the bicycle in the city of Dar, but also been doing a street art. I'm a graffiti writer, but also I've been involved with a lot of preservation of the old building of the city of Dar es Salaam.
Correct. Yeah. So how much of your time is spent on Afriroots?
Yeah, about 60% of my time I'm spending on Afriroots, and about 20% I spend on WABA, which WABA stands for Uma Wapanda Baiskeli, which in English means the Community of Cyclists, a non-profit organization which I helped to found in 2006 with the aim of promoting the use of bicycle in the city of Dar. And the last 20% I divide between use it as a graffiti artist. I'm the founder of a graffiti crew in Dar es Salaam called Wachata, or WCT, and traveling as well as mentoring young people, especially kids from International School of Tanganyika, which I go every Tuesday for an hour.
Cool. So you're a busy man.
More or less.
So let's talk about Afriroots.
Yes.
So what's the best way to describe it? Is it a tour company, a travel company, an adventure company? What's the best way?
I'll say it's a combination of both. It's a combination of adventure company, but also ecotourism company, because we focus mainly on bicycle tours, hiking, walking tours, even though for the last 6-7 years we've been doing safari as well. So, but even when we do safari, we're trying to minimize the amount of time where a person will be sitting in the car. So we're trying to combine a game drive with walking safari or bicycle safari.
Okay. So how many locations do your tours or your adventures take place in?
Afriroots, we are more mainly focused on the southern circuit of Tanzania. When I say southern circuit, it means that we are focusing in the place like Usambara Mountain, which is in Tanga, all the way down to the border of Mozambique and Tanzania. So when it comes to the mountain biking and hiking, we are focusing on Usambara Mountain. We are focusing on Uluguru Mountain, Udzungwa, and there's a new destination which Afriroots became the first company to start taking people on that mountain called Uluguru Mountain. And in terms of combination of safari and bicycle, we do focus in Selous, of which people they can do boat safari, they can do walking safari, they can do game drive, but also we can do bicycle safari if you be starting from Morogoro to Selous. Yeah, but also we have other places like Kitulo National Park, which is in Mbeya, which is called Southern Highland, where we do a bicycle safari in Kitulo National Park. But now we'll be focusing more on bicycle safari because before that was hard for us to do bicycle safari in the national park. But the TANAPA, Tanzanian National Park Authority, they've just allowed to do bicycle safari inside the national park. And we had a very successful bicycle safari just last month where we managed to cycle through Sadani National Park. And we have another bicycle safari this coming weekend.
All right.
In Sadani.
So what makes a successful bicycle safari?
I would say that from beginning, both me and my business partner, we found out that the tourism industry in Tanzania, it's very, I say, conservative or traditional, in the sense that they just most of the tour operators they just focus on national park, on safari, and it's even sad. You find that most of the tour operators they're focusing more on the place which is a huge promoted area. I'm talking about places like Serengeti, Ngorongoro, Kilimanjaro, of which in other way around. First of all, it's a bit expensive, and the second thing, competition is very big. But the third thing is that to us, because me and my business partner, we're all like adventurer people, we found out uh, it's not that much fun for a tourist to go to the national park where, for example, we find a lion and then there's about 20 cars surrounding one lion, everybody taking pictures. So it's more or less like a zoo. So we find this is opportunity for us to take people to off-beaten destination, of which mostly you find that in southern circuit. And in the southern circuit, speaking of safari, we have places like Selu, which has been not promoted that well. But Selu is one of the few national park um, in Tanzania or maybe in Africa where you can do at least combination of different stuff, things like a bicycle, road safari, walking safari, as well as game drive.
See.
Yeah.
So you said that you were the first people to do this new sort of safari.
Mhm.
Can you talk me through the process of how you were able to do that and what you searched for, what you trying to do? Can you talk me through how you did it?
Yeah. At the beginning was kind of was a little bit difficult to start at the beginning. One of being it was a new idea where authority or people in the offices are not used to the new ideas. So I remember the very first time we went to trying to register in the Minister of Tourism, we are told that bicycle is sports, so we should go to the Minister of Sport. But likely we are lucky to find that within the Ministry of Sports, they have a department of outdoor sports. So how we started as an outdoor sports company. But again, the outdoor sports doesn't have a boundary, which means you can do anywhere. So that's how we started, and the other reason is because to register a tour company in Tanzania, I need a huge startup capital. I'm talking about you need to have at least 5 4x4 vehicles. You need to have an office website. You need to have a substantial amount of money in your account. Of which, when we started, me and my business partner, we didn't have that much money. Actually, I would say that the Afriroots was founded with less than $200. Because I remember my contribution was about 85,000 shillings, and my business partner was more or less the same. And at that time was about $200 that was worth. And again, as I say, it's after when we started a tourism industry in Tanzania, we found there's a lot of things which are missing in terms of service. And one of the things which I would say was our stepping stone. It's when we found out most of people who come to Tanzania not as a tourist, those who are coming up here as expatriate. Some of them they come up here as volunteers. Some of them they come up here as internee into embassies. But again, they want to take that opportunity of being in Tanzania to do some sort of traveling. But again, when you look to those destinations, first it's very expensive. Second, takes longer time. So we found that people who are working in Dar es Salaam, young expatriates, volunteers, they need to do something on weekend, especially from Friday to Sunday. So we started with organizing a weekend getaways where we come with a monthly program where we take people on the hike, because also most of the tour operators are not really focused on hiking. So we start to hike in close places like in Morogoro, where it's about 3 hours drive from Dar es Salaam. But also we find some of these places there's a reliable public transport. For example, in Morogoro, there's a reliable public transport. So I remember our first trip, we took people to Morogoro, which was 3 days hike, and I remember we charged them about $48 for 3 days program, which was quite cheap. And until today in Morogoro, if people they opt to use public transport on 3 days hiking program, which we provide everything, tent, food, everything, it's only $150 per person for 3 days program, which is still a little bit cheaper. compared to other destinations. Yeah. So again, so when we start doing this getaway program, we had different destinations. Like the first weekend, we go to Guru mountain hiking. The next one, maybe we go biking in the South Beach. The third one, we go to maybe to Usambara for the mountain biking. So that creates some sort of like a niche market for us. But at the same time, these people who they were our client, they become more or less as our friend, and also became a place where people they can do networking, because you're new in that, you look for people with the like-minded. But toward the end, these are the same people who work for the embassy, whereby whoever want to come to Tanzania, whom they'll ask them like, want to come to Tanzania, what can we do? So we start getting those kind of recommendations from other people. But again, since our program till today are quite unique, so we start to get a lot of media coverage, and at the same time, the word of the mouth become really big because everybody they say, okay, you should go with these people. So that's how we started.
Nice.
Yeah.
So just so I have a grasp of the sort of scale, so how many sort of trips will you do in a year, and how many customers will you have?
In a year, if we put together with the bicycle tours we do in Dar, I would say last year we had about 947 trips in general.
About 940.
Yeah,
It sounds like you know the exact answer, right?
Yeah, and then this year we still, so far as I'm saying, we are more than 1,000. Is where we are, even though this year the business has been slow. But we found this year we have more of the bicycle tour, especially the city, the reality tour, become real popular. Yeah. And again, another thing which also made us to be unique is because all our tour we have name for it. So, for example, we have Dar Reality Tour, we have Dar Historical Tour, we have Dar Reality by Night, we have Local Nature Walk, which that's Salu, but just give the name. So, yeah, so for the Dar Reality Tour, for example, for nowadays, we have people almost every day.
Okay.
So, which means more than 300 trips just for one.
Okay. Yeah. And okay, so talk me through. So let's say that I've just arrived in Dar, and my friend says you should check out this thing called Afriroots. What do I then do as a customer? How do I then go from hearing your name through to actually engaging in the tour?
Oh yeah, the first thing you do is that, for example, it depends what kind of tour you want to do.
So sell it to me.
Yeah, for example, if you want to do bicycle tours like that reality tour. That reality tour, we take booking every day as far that it's not late than 6 in the evening.
So am I finding your phone number on a website or on Facebook? What's the way?
So first of all, we have very active Facebook page where we post things every day. But again, if this is a funny way, there's another funny thing is that my Facebook page also is quite popular. So people,
your personal one?
Yeah, so they follow it a lot. But also, as I say, that because we have different kind of, we have a very unique kind of tour. So our Afriroots is almost in every embassy. Inside the embassy, but also we've been in.
When you say inside the embassy,
I mean like in the embassy they have a kind of like a notice board where they encourage people what to do. Yeah, so they normally put our posters in there.
Got it.
But also we've been into guidebook. I'm talking about Lonely Planet and Rough Guide since 2005, 5 and 6, and every time they keep updating it. But where else? Yeah, but also we're listed in most of the Dar guidebooks, like magazine, like advertising Dar, what's happening in Dar, Dar guide. So if you go in there, then and there's another new one came this year called Teasing in Your Pocket. Also, we are listed in there. Yeah.
And so do I go to your website and I look? Do you have a sort of like an online brochure?
Yeah, we have the website which does. Even though another thing, since most of our tour are unique and original, and also been doing spend a lot of time to do a research on our website. We don't put most of the details, and we stopped doing that after when we found out when you put details, there's other tour operator who they're not honest to you, where they don't do any research and they'll come, they take your information.
Interesting.
And claim their information.
So did you find that you were doing the tour and there were like people people who were like pretending to be you, or they were offering their own tour?
Yeah, they offer almost the same program, but also we have few cases where people that pretend to be us. There's even a company which they even have a name which almost sounds like ours, called Bush Foods.
Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes you go on the safari and then you start see people like clients start pointing finger in our car, and then you find out they came looking for Afriroots, but they ended up going to the Bush Foods. Yeah. So there's a lot of emulation. The only kind of tool which the other tour operators they haven't been able to copy, it's a bicycle tour, the one which go to Humble Neighborhood.
Yeah.
And the reason just because since we've been going there for 13 years, we have strong community sense. But also you find most of the tour operators they don't know much about that community, so they have that phobia that if you take your client there, they will be robbed. But again, as I say, we have strong relationship with that community. We have been helping them with a lot of social service, including help them to build a bridge, to do a social service. So there's a lot of things which goes back to that community.
I see. How many people work for Afriroots?
So far, we have about 12 people work for Afriroots because it's a low season, but also this year is not that good in business. But during high season, can go up to 50 people.
50,
yeah. Because that will include porters, extra guides, porters, extra guides, extra drivers, extra personnel for the camp to set up camps and things like those. Because during high season, normally we have an agent from UK who normally they give us about 300 clients every high season. So, and this plants normally come within a span of 1.5 months. So, accommodating 300 people in the span of 1.5 months, you need more people. So, we normally have people we hire them only during high season.
Yes. Okay. What do you find is sort of the important characteristics of a good employee for you, and how do you find people that have those?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. The very first thing which Afriroots we're looking at when we want to hire new people, we're always looking at the attitude of that person. We don't really care about the qualification. So the first thing we look is attitude. The second thing we look at is language, command of English mainly. If he has extra, that's fine. But so far we don't have any guide who speak more than English. So and most of the time we prefer people who have just finished school, most like high school or college, which is not associated with the tourism, because we normally have like in-house training. So we train people according to the way we want, the way the Afriroots philosophy focus. Yeah. So and we found out most of these people who come to us without any background of tourism, but they have good attitude. They understand, they speak good English, but also they really want to be into tourism. We look at them. But if somebody has that good attitude as well as interest with social justice as well as history, that's another bonus, because we found out those are the ones who really fit into our vision.
Got it. Yeah. And so when people come for an interview or they ask you, what is the quick way to summarize the Afriroots philosophy or the Afriroots vision?
The Afriroots vision, first of all, it's has to be environmental friendly, has to be social conscious, and also has to be something which is unique. Like you have to think outside the box.
See. Yeah. I'm interested. When you said that this year has been a bit slow for business, do you have any idea why?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons. One, being the changes of introduction of a new VAT tax into all the tourism business, and it's something which normally, like the way the tourism business works, the high season starts from mid-June to around July, and high season go the way to around October, and then November go slow, and then December peak again, and then January, February start going down. So yeah. So but by May, most of the tour operators they already know how the year will look like. You already get all the bookings, and most of the booking also already been paid, and also already had an agreement. So what they did this year, the government decided to introduce VAT or 18% VAT tax on in June and started in 1st of July this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So for us, we thought that they could have said, okay, fine, from next year July, then we're gonna introduce this VAT tax, but they just started in the middle of the year.
I see. So,
for us.
So I understand it. You have you had done your pricing, and you said, okay, we are going to charge $500.
Exactly.
And you're okay, it's $500, but our costs are going to be $200. And then suddenly you discover you're going to have to pay an extra £40.
18, yeah. Exactly.
18% or whatever. Yeah. And so then suddenly you can't go back to that person and say, can you pay extra?
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I see.
Yeah, so that also created a lot of problem, including some of the clients decided to cancel.
Why did they cancel?
Just because some of them maybe they just paid advance, and then now we tell them that they have to add more.
I see. Oh, so you went back to them and you
just few of them we decided,
and you did say, please, can you pay a bit?
Yeah, more? And they say no. Some of them they cancel. Some of them who are like agents, we just decided to do it, even though we don't make much profit. So just operating a loss of very minimal.
I see.
So that's the main reason. But also, there's other thing like introduction of a card system, like you have to pay through the card on the pack fees. Before people are paying cash, but now they introduce a card where you have to put money on your card.
Oh, so it is not a credit card. It is a separate.
It's a separate card. Yeah.
Top-up.
Yeah, top up. But also they do charge commission out of it. Okay. So that keep on taking away your marginal profit. Yeah. And the other thing is just in general where you find that, as I say, Afriroots we're trying to do is to go to places where other people they don't go. And sometimes it's kind of disappointing. You go to the place which doesn't have any tourist goes, but again you find the park fees or forest fees higher than the national park where people knows about that. So that would be another difficult for us because you introduce a new destination, but also it's not that cheap. But you already spend money on researching and find, some of this mountain even we ended up finding finance for the trail, But again, as I say, nobody's gonna compensate us. But even when other tour operators start taking people there, they're not gonna pay us that. Yeah. So we all this kind of challenge which sometimes we come across with, but we're trying to survive. Yeah.
Right. What would you say in the last few years have been the biggest learnings you've had from doing Afriroots?
One of the biggest lesson I've got through being with Afriroots first is that everything has to start real small. Like the passion pays. Like the more you wait for something, and you focus, you can grow. And the other thing is that to understand that the business doesn't need a lot of input in terms of money. It need a lot of input in terms of ideas. So if you have ideas, then you can be able to introduce, and the money will come. But one of the big lessons is like to be tolerant. Tolerance is everything. Okay? Because as I say, from beginning when we started until today, some of my friends, my relatives, they didn't believe that this thing will work out. And even till today, they don't think that it works the way I know how it works. Yeah.
I see. I'm interested. When you said you started the business with $200, what did you spend those first $200 on?
I remember it was like buying one bike. With that bike, we rented out to a person who he was paying us $5 a day. So per month he gave us like $150, and then we bought new 2 tents, which we start those 2 tents by doing research, sleeping whenever we go to research, and then after when we get our first destination, we didn't have money to operate for the trip. So all we did, we asked for the client to pay us in advance, and then we spent that money to bring this client. Yeah. But I remember for the very first 6 months, you go on the trip, 3 days trip, you come back home with enough money for you to survive from Monday to Friday before you go to another trip. Yeah. But also, I think wasn't a problem because one, we're doing something which we really like, so we didn't see it as a difficult. And second thing, I think we're really young, so we're not really care about it. We didn't have much responsibilities. And the third thing is that joy of seeing that you have created something, and then people are coming, and then they like this service. And as I say at the beginning, we're just me and my business partner, and we're doing everything. We are cooking, we do set up tents, so sometimes carry the luggage almost like porters. So I think something which I'll say that help us to understand that anything you want to build, you need a lot of system, you need a lot of energy, but also you need a lot of focus and believe on what you're doing. And the money is not everything. Yeah.
So we'll just do a few more questions.
Yeah.
That's okay. When you look over the next year, let's say the next until this time next year, what is it that you're most excited about?
First of all, one of the things which I'm really excited is that we have more bicycle tours in the national park, because as I say, now it's official allowed, and for us it's another opportunity. And as I say, we are successful to bring the first group in Tanzanian National Park last year. But the whole idea is like to make sure that we do mapping of all national park in Tanzania, and in order for us to be the first people to do that. Because as I understand that even the TANAPA, Tanzanian National Park Authority, they've allowed cycling in the park, but I'm quite sure they don't have any road or the circuit where people they can be able to cycle. So that's another opportunity for us.
I see.
Yeah.
So this might be a very silly question. Are there lions in this national park? So let's say I'm cycling and that like a lion comes over, like. What do? Do I have to cycle away really quick?
And that's another challenge which we're facing, because I understand other countries which they do allow cycling in the national park, they normally have rangers, park warden or park rangers who also they cycle with you, and then they have rifle and they can shoot while they if anything happen, which we don't have that. So to start with, we're trying to go to the place where they don't have much lion, like Sadani, they have lion there, but not so random.
Okay.
And also we're trying not to go to the small road, so it's trying because in the national park there's a main road and also there's a small road.
Okay.
So trying to stick as much as we can.
Yeah.
In the main road, and maybe in the future, or maybe until somebody get a problem, maybe the TANAPA are gonna think about having a special unit of a park ranger who they can cycle.
This is a bit off topic, but if you are sort of like in a national park and you get confronted with a lion, what's like the best defense mechanism? Are you meant to like run up a tree, or what are you meant to do?
First of all, the instance of lion confronting or come across with the people, it doesn't happen that much. I would say I can't recall. I've been in this business for 13 years. I never had any. So, but one thing is that when you see lion, first of all, keep your cool and try not to look at lion face. Don't do eye contact. And running is not the best way, but you can walk away.
So you just like play cool, just be like just any other cat.
Yeah. So that's the thing. But other animals like elephant, if you have anything, you can make noise.
Make a noise.
Yeah, like bottles and stuff. They will, they get away. But also, as I say, all this. One other thing which you learn when you go to the nature is to understand that animals, they have very high instinct. Like they can tell if you're scared. They can tell if you're a bad person. And also, most of the animals, they try as much as they can to avoid confrontation, with the exception of only one animal, which is buffalo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, buffalo. I would say buffalo to me is the only animal which are really scared.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because buffalo, they like confrontation.
Oh, really? So are they doing it just for fun, or are they doing it to eat you?
No, they'll kill you. Do
they kill you to eat you, or
no,
they think you're a threat?
Just like try and stamp.
Okay.
Stuff, they're always angry.
Because they think you're a threat?
I don't know where that things came from, buffalo. Because I would say that there's some places like Salou, which is a game reserve, which animal they were hunted, so that I can understand that. But the other places like national park, let's say Kilimanjaro National Park, it's not hunting there.
Yeah.
But I think Kilimanjaro and Arusha National Park have mean buffalo.
Okay.
In other parts,
Right.
So it's
Okay, so if you were to sort of like fast forward 5 years, what does Afriroots look like?
Five years from now, we want Afriroots to be one of the very successful ecotourism in Tanzania. But both me and my business partner, we're not focusing much on making wealth. We're more focusing on creating more jobs, but also create some sort of unique thing which will leave a legacy. Because that's what we do believe, that we as a human being, we are here for a purpose, and you be remembered long when you do something which after when you're gone will still there. So in the next 5 years, we want to see Africa to be very successful, but also to be able to create a lot of destination which was not there before. Our joy is to see there's a new destination which has been established. It doesn't matter if you will be Africa's monopolize it or the other company are working with us. But as far that there's something which you can point to say, okay, that's because of us. That's what we're looking at.
Nice. And people listening at home, how can they hear about Afriroots, or how can they sort of understand what it is that you guys are doing?
Yeah, we can be heard from different places, from different sources. You can find us. We are on most of the guidebooks. Lonely Planet, Rough Guides. But also we have website which is www.afriroots.co.tz, and then also we have Facebook page which is it's Afriroots Adventures. But also, as I say, we've been lucky. We've been lucky to be featured in a lot of medias. I mean, I'm talking about from TV. We're on the German Adventure TV just January this year. We've been featured in a lot of traveling magazine. And also since we are working with the school, because that's another thing I didn't mention, we are working with the high school, we are working with the university, we're working with the university like Harvard, Stanford, local school like IST, because of the tour which we are giving out. And also we are very well known in South Africa because of the Liberation Movement side tour which we are doing, where we take people where African National Congress officers used to be in Dar es Salaam. So you can find us through all those different channels.
Great, and I'll link to those in the show notes as well.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, cool. Well, for now, Mejah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's nice. You're great.
Before we head, just a quick moment to say thank you for listening. You can see the show notes of this episode by heading to samfloy.com/podcast and then searching for the episode title. That's samfloy.com/podcast. Now, a few people have got in touch and have been asking about how this podcast came about. And well, it all started when I took a one-way flight to Rwanda to seek out business opportunities across the region. I'm now at the stage of formulating a bit of a plan of the business I want to go into, based on all of these podcast interviews, and we'll be keeping a record of what I get up to on my blog. And so if you're interested in being kept in the loop, you can sign up to the newsletter there. Again, it's samfloy.com. Also, if you have any questions, comments or feedback about the podcast, or indeed anything, please feel free to email me, podcast@samfloy.com, and I'd be very happy to chat. In any case, have a great week and speak to you soon.